We move now to the incredible resurgence of Lane Garrison, the breakout star from the hit Fox show Prison Break. Well, Lane is now starring in a brand new TV movie event. It's the retelling of the story of Bonnie and Clyde, with Lane playing Buck Barrow, whose gang teams up with the infamous bank robbers in a role that was made famous, of course, by Gene Hackman in the Bonnie and Clyde movie more than 40 years ago. Lane joining me right now from Hollywood. It's good to see you, Lane. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, AJ. It's great to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And look at what you're doing here. This is almost unprecedented as a TV event. You got A&E, you got the History Channel, you got Lifetime, all putting this thing on simultaneously at the same time over 2 nights starting on Sunday. Are you feeling the pressure, man?
I'm not feeling the pressure because the project is so good. You know, it first started out for one network, and I think once the head of the network saw it, they figured all three needed it. It's directed by Bruce Beresford, who directed Driving Miss Daisy and Tender Mercies, and he just did a phenomenal job with it. We've got a stellar cast: William Hurt, Holly Hunter, 2 Academy Award winners, obviously Emile Hirsch, Holiday Granger, myself, and Sarah Hyland. And I couldn't be more thrilled about this project.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're confident and that you're smiling about it, because let's face it, it's not lost on you that you stepped into some pretty big shoes in the role that, of course, Gene Hackman made famous all the way back in 1967 in the original movie. Let's flash back, shall we?
Take a good look, Pop. I'm Buck Barrow. For the Barrow Boys! Happy birthday, hon!
Okay, now obviously that's just a taste, but look, there's only one Hackman. However, we have high levels of confidence in you, Lane. How did you go about making Buck Barrow your own?
Well, you know what? Gene Hackman obviously is one of the great American actors of all time, and stepping into those shoes was a big thing for me. But, you know, these are 2 totally different films and 2 totally different characters, obviously playing the same man, but the scripts are different. And this film is a bit darker. There's a lot more blood, there's a lot more bullets, and it really explores who these characters were and what drove them to do the things that they did.
Well, let's take a look at how you did Buck Barrow on your own. Let's roll that out, Charles.
You want a taste of this?
Dumbass baboon.
That's it. No! That's it!
Get his ass, Daddy! Get his ass!
Nice. I think you could have taken him. What's amazing is you do have, I learned, this actual connection to Buck and Bonnie and Clyde from when you were a kid.
Yeah, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and Dallas is where Bonnie and Clyde were originally from. So I've known this story since I was 6. My grandfather actually would take me by the Barrow filling station as a kid, and the barn behind my elementary school was a hideout for Bonnie and Clyde. This was a story I've known well, I was fascinated by, and it couldn't have worked out better that I get to be part of this project.
That is amazing, and we're happy to see you in the project. And quite frankly, we're happy to see how much has turned around for you. Obviously, it's been 4 years since you finished serving time for killing a passenger while driving drunk. But now, I was happy to see how much you've dedicated yourself to anti-drunk driving, and you're a real advocate for that now. Share that experience with us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I chose to foolishly drink and drive one night, and it cost a young man his life, and I found myself going from prison break to prison. And now I'm really focused on teaching other people the dangers of drinking and driving, and hopefully they can see in what has happened to me and everybody else that's been involved that this is a real deal and it's serious. I'm an active member of MAD, and I go around the country. I speak to a lot of youth around the country, and, you know, I think I'm having a really big impact. And you know, one thing that I'm really thankful about is that I get a second chance where someone else didn't. So I'm making the most of it now, and it's great that I get to be back to work because it only gives me a bigger platform to speak to people about the dangers of drinking and driving.
Well, Lane, I do know it's something you obviously still deal with and live with every day, and you probably always will, but I give you a lot of credit for really authentically dedicating yourself to this. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I want to say one thing is, you know, you brought up doing time. And we lost a great figure today, a great leader and a great man in Nelson Mandela. I actually read his book while I was doing time, and I did 2 years in 8 institutions, and there were obviously a lot of dark days in there, but after reading his book, this was a man who did 27 years and came out on top, and that's something that inspires me in my daily life and my daily walk.
Lane, can I have you stick around and talk to us on the other side of the break about your thoughts on Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, absolutely.
SBT continues. We're back now with Bonnie and Clyde star Lane Garrison in Hollywood, who was just sharing with us his thoughts about the passing of the great Nelson Mandela earlier today at the age of 95. And Lane, you mentioned that you read the book Mandela while you were in prison. You did 2 years where he did 25 years under obviously very different circumstances. But what was the connection that you did feel, and what inspired you about him while you were in there doing time?
Yeah, I mean, here was a man, doing 25 years that was unwavering in his beliefs, that was willing to sacrifice himself and his own freedom for the beliefs and the better of his country. And I just thought that unselfish act, once again, I was in there for making a terrible decision, and I deserved to pay the consequences for my actions. This was a man who was in there for his beliefs and for his heart. And I thought that if this man could make it through 25 years, I could make it through anything that any guard threw at me. And, there obviously it's prison, so it's not a fun place. So there's a lot of hardships and a lot of pain inside. I saw the inside of 8 different institutions in California, and they're not pretty places, but, they still were not as bad as a South African prison system. And this man was a true leader, and he was an inspiration to me that I can turn my life around, and I can make this tragedy, I can triumph through this tragedy just like he did.
Yeah, and something to carry with you through your entire life. Obviously, millions of people read the bestseller Mandela. If you're in prison while you're reading it, you obviously have a much different connection to that book. What was your biggest takeaway from reading it?
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, it's interesting because that book was passed along to me and it was read by most of the inmates around me. So I think I got it towards the end, and, it was just, once again, it provided me with hope. There's not a lot of hope inside there, and you don't think you're ever going to leave those prison walls. And that book provided hope for a lot of men, and myself included.
We're seeing such an outpouring, obviously, around the world, but a great deal of outpouring from Hollywood right now, out in social media, people's thoughts on Mandela. Why do you think Hollywood feels such a connection to this man?
Well, I think not just Hollywood. I think it's people across the world, because anytime a man lives from his soul and from his gut and from his heart and follows his dreams, he's an inspiration to millions of people. So I think it's not just Hollywood, it's the world that's really connected.
Well, Lane, I really appreciate you being here. Unfortunately, under these unpleasant circumstances with the loss of a great man, but who lived a tremendous life, and at 95 years old, we have a lot to be thankful for, and I really am thankful to you for sharing your story. Best of luck with your new projects, and again, I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, AJ.